Yesterday, we told you about a new state-of-the-art government program that's helping heal American soldiers suffering from traumatic brain injuries. The Tampa VA hospital behind the rehab program gave CBS News an exclusive look at the tools they are using to treat the invisible injuries. And today, I want to tell you more about the pioneering program and how it's helping keep military families together. Catherine Herridge joins us from Washington to talk about this. Catherine, good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So you talked to a military family dealing with the multiple deployments and, in some cases, traumatic brain injury. What do they say is having the biggest impact on them?
Well, it's really multifactorial. You have these long periods of time where these families are apart. And just for some context, it's not unusual to talk to someone who's got a spouse in special operations, and they've been gone 60, 70, or 80% of their marriage since 9/11 because of the multiple deployments. And then you add on to that multiple injuries, traumatic brain injury because they've been blown up on target, as was the case with this Navy SEAL Clay Pendergrass, or they've been in roadside bombings or helicopter crashes. I mean, you name it, and these things really have a cumulative effect. We sat down, and it's very rare to do this with someone who's active duty, this Navy SEAL Clay Pendergrass and his wife, SOFIA. Do you have a lot of chronic pain?
Yeah, that's probably, I would say, the number one issue, I think, for most folks who, once you have enough injuries, it's not necessarily a specific injury, it's the totality of the pain and the second and third order effects of that on your cognition, on your sleep, your hormones, all of the above.
And your mental and emotional health too.
Yes, without a doubt. Yeah, even just processing it can be a problem. You don't realize the second and third order effects until much later.
SOFIA, what changes have you seen?
Well, it's been a long process because he's had a lot of injuries the last 10 years or so. So after we met, just a couple of years after that was 9/11, and so quite quickly into our relationship, he started being gone a lot, and I would just not see him very much.
How much has he been gone in the course of your marriage?
About 80% or so.
80%?
Yeah. So it's been quite a bit. And to me, his coming and going has definitely created more and more of a distance between us as a family, a husband and wife, and also between the kids. And then the last few years, really when he started having more injuries after a certain point, I felt like he slowly started coming back, like really noticing. I think it came to a point where he felt like he needed to heal and was receptive to that from my perspective.
So this Tampa VA program is not only trying to help them with the physical ailments, but is trying to help them reconnect with members of their families. And it's kind of jaw-dropping to listen to SOFIA there say that 80% of her marriage, she's been away from her spouse and doing a lot of single parenting with their sons. And that is really the most common track you see with these families. It's not the exception, Vlad.
And it still is remarkable to me, Catherine, all these years. I mean, almost every war that this country has ever been involved in, we have seen traumatic brain injury. We've seen the stress that it takes on families, and we are still unable to deal with it effectively. I think that I wonder how difficult it is for. I note the trident and eagle on the sailor's uniform there. So he's a Navy SEAL. I wonder for somebody to come out and talk about these things in such a personal way to you, perhaps will give some hope to people who feel that they have no hope when dealing with some of the problems related to traumatic brain injury.
Well, you really have to salute the people who came on and went on the record about what are very personal challenges that they have been facing. And on traumatic brain injury, it's very difficult to diagnose, but I got a better understanding of the negative impact it has on people's lives, because when you get blown up on target or you're in a roadside bombing, you may not necessarily have the physical scars, but what happens often is that your vestibular system, this is in your inner ear that controls balance, is out of whack. And from that is a ripple effect, which is very negative for people, because once you lose that ability to have that sense of balance, you start to have sleeplessness, you start to have headaches. This leads to anger, and then it often leads to depression as well. So it's sort of a spiral downward. And I spoke to a Medal of Honor recipient in Afghanistan, and I was talking to him about this program, and he said, since I got blown up in this suicide bombing, I've not had a good night's sleep in a decade. And it's because of these balance issues. And so the program does a lot with virtual reality to help retrain the brain so they can sort of fix some of the balance issues, maybe not 100%, but fix them enough that people have better coping skills, and you can start to minimize or limit these sort of follow-on consequences like sleeplessness, like headaches, and this anger and depression that can often follow.
You know, as you're well aware, Catherine, many soldiers, sailors, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, Air Force veterans are diagnosed with traumatic brain injuries, but some are not, and they fail to get the help they need. Why is that?
Well, we spoke with the deputy commander for SOCOM. This was his first on-camera TV interview in the Post, and he was very forthright with us, and he said, you know, these are folks, it's just not in their DNA to ask for help. It's in their DNA to always put their teammates first and always put the mission first. So asking for help can be tough on a personal level. And then there's this idea that if you do ask for help, it can really put a stake in the heart of your career. Let's listen. Is there a message that you want people at home to understand about healing these, what I call them, high mileage warriors?
Yeah, I think two things. I think General Clark, the commander of Special Operations Command, is intent on, you know, preserving these warriors to perpetuate, as we discussed, the future of Special Operations, and it's under the National Defense Strategy is an aspect of lethality for what we might have to do in the future. And I think one, it's about making us better, making us more lethal. But just as importantly, it's about you know, improving the quality of life and the welfare of our SOF personnel.
And also maybe communicating to them, it's okay to ask for help.
That underpins it all.
Is that a culture change?
That is and still needs to be a driving culture change. And the testimonial is in the people going through it and then taking it back to their teammates. And I think we're starting to see that. And it's a really important aspect. It's a trust. It's a trust factor. When we show people that we're not going to take them away from their team, if they can volunteer for help, they get the help they need, and we can, you know, improve whatever aspect of the issues that they might be dealing with to put them back online.
And getting that help is not a career killer for people.
Getting that help is not a career killer.
The Tampa program really tries to help heal the physical injuries and then also these relationships at home, because they're trying to give these folks sort of that badly needed reset so that they can continue and return to duty or stay on duty, and they can take what is this incredibly valuable institutional knowledge that's been gathered since 9/11 and pass that on to the next generation that's coming up. So it makes a lot of sense in terms of being the best leader and the best soldier on the battlefield, but also trying to be their best as a parent and a spouse on the home front as well, Vlad.
You know, Catherine, I'm just reminded and watching the Vice Admiral there in his remarks to you, certainly, as he says, it is not a career killer. On the other hand, I could see where the military might say, look, somebody who is suffering from PTSD or even traumatic brain injury should not go back out into the field of battle. Well, if you are a Navy SEAL or you are a Army Special Forces officer or soldier, or, you know, you could see where if the main business of what your MOS is fighting, that they might not allow you to do that, and then you might be stunted in your career advancement.
Well,
I guess the statistics will have to show, right?
Right. Well, the Vice Admiral said that the message that they have for people is that when you go to a program like the one in Tampa, it's 6 to 12 weeks, so it's limited, and that they're thinking about it like another sort of mini deployment or a mission. Make that your focus for a specific period of time. Find ways to work on the issues that you have, try and sort of reset yourself so that you can continue on. And so that, I think, is the attitude that they're trying to pass along to everyone in these special operations services.
All right, CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge. Catherine, thank you very much. Important reporting.
You're welcome.